Shalom. What is it to speak Yiddish, to speak Jewish, to speak Hebrew? What are the differences between them? Well, the first language was Hebrew. Hebrew is a language of the Hebrew Bible. It's part of the Canaanite family of languages, language of the Hebrew Bible, although there are a few other words from other languages in the Hebrew Bible. And then it was the basis of the book of the Mishnah, which was codified in 220. And thereafter, when the Romans conquered the Jews, and the Jews were scattered, the Hebrew ceased to be a spoken language, but it remained the rich language of the Jewish people for the holy literature. So, for example, Maimonides writing in the Mishnah Torah in 1135 to 1204, that book's in Hebrew. It was the book of the language of the prayer book. There's just a few prayers in the prayer book that are Aramaic, which was the language of the Jews who wrote in the Talmud after the Mishnah. And there were many languages the Jews spoke, but they always read the Hebrew Bible, they prayed in Hebrew, and it was really the rich, vital language. In fact, as I said in another video, if you want to guarantee that Jews somewhere will read what you write 1,000 years from now, the only language you can be sure that they'll read is Hebrew. If you can be sure of anything, because every other language we speak, we've only spoken English for a short time in world history, for example. Then what happened was, in the 19th century, this fellow named Eliezer ben Yehuda was really the chief figure in the revival of the modern Hebrew language. He published a dictionary of Hebrew language, and there was actually debate in Israel as to what the language should be, and they finally decided, of course, on Hebrew. And once you have a nation, you have to have a language with a lot of words, and so the vocabulary has become enriched, and now it's a spoken language. Now, what is Yiddish? Well, Yiddish is a different situation. A little over a century ago, people didn't speak any Hebrew in conversation. The language of European Jewry was Yiddish. Now, the Hebrew word for Jew in Yiddish is Yid, and that's why people would say when they're speaking Yiddish, they're speaking Jewish, but it's not speaking Jewish, they're speaking Yiddish. There are four main components in Yiddish. Hebrew, of course, and the letters of Yiddish are Hebrew letters. Loez, which is a combination of Old French and Old Italian. German and Slavic. But 85% of the vocabulary of Yiddish is medieval German and German words. And the basic Yiddish grammatical structure follows German. But of course, again, it uses Hebrew letters. Now, the Jews spoke Yiddish in countries basically where Jews didn't have equal rights. Polish and Russian Jews spoke Yiddish, but the majority of Jews in 19th century France and German spoke French and German because they had rights there. Think about this number. In the 1920s, Yiddish newspapers published in New York sold more than 200,000 copies daily. In fact, one of the main Jewish newspapers in America today, the Forward, which is a weekly, is in English. It used to be the Vorwitz and was a prominent Yiddish newspaper. Elsewhere we have videos on Yiddish, but I just wanted to give you a little background on the differences between Hebrew and Yiddish. And of course, the holy language of Judaism is Hebrew, the language still of the Bible, the language of the prayer book. I have relatives in Israel that don't like to use Hebrew. In fact, the common language among Hasidim today is Yiddish, still in the homes, because they want to reserve Hebrew, if at all possible, for holy purposes.